What's up, Sober Family? Welcome back. This is another episode of Recovery Talk brought to you by Pro Recovery Power. Before I move any further, I just would like to say again, thank you to everybody for you guys' continued prayers and support in this time that me and my family are grieving the loss of my mom. It really means a lot to me, and I'm getting better every day. So I thank you guys so much for all the love, the support, and the prayers in this time. Now, just a few announcements before we move forward. Our website, prorecoverypower.com. If you guys would be so kind, if you guys log on to prorecoverypower.com, on the bottom right hand corner, it has a survey / questionnaire that will really help Pro Recovery Power transition into a nonprofit organization, because that's the goal. The reason why I started Pro Recovery Power is to eventually turn it into a nonprofit organization so I can reach people at a massive level. You know, these live shows, our YouTube page, recovery clothing line, the website, all these different things, they're all just tools that I use to get me in front of the person that's still sick and suffering. And I can operate in my gift, operate in the calling that God called me to do, really, and to live in my purpose. So that's the whole reason behind it. Also, you guys can donate on our website if you guys want to. That's totally up to you. But we thank you guys again for all the love and support. Now, so today is going to be part 2 we're doing with Robert. If you guys were here last week, you guys seen that he told his story in masterly detail. You know, I mean, it's just incredible. The things he's done and how he can remember it and explain it so well, man. You know, there's a lot of stuff I forget, you know, that I've done because I was drunk, I was high. You know, I don't have any recollection. A lot I do though. But today we're getting into part 2 of Robert's story. So right now we're moving into the recovery side of his story at this time. So I will get him in here real soon. Hey Jill, how are you? It's good to see you as always. Congratulations. Woohoo. Okay. There he is.
Hey, what's going on, brother?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Man, it's beautiful here.
I know you're at the lake, huh?
Yeah, it's Lake LBJ, so it's about, I don't know, like an hour and 20 minutes from Pflugerville, maybe like 45 minutes to an hour from Austin.
Oh, wow. And what's the weather like? Like, how hot is it there right now?
So it's like 70, but the real feel is like 83.
Oh, really? Oh, man. It's
Yeah.
not even summer yet. It's warming up.
No, yeah, it's not even. We'll get into the upper like 105,
Oh,
110.
oh man. You know, growing up, being born and raised in Hawaii, you know, when people ask me how hot is it there, it's really humid. That's why. So like, you know, like 86 there, it feels like, 110 over here,
Yeah.
California. You know, it's
Oh
just, it's
yeah.
different. It's different kind of heat. Like if I was doing this in Hawaii right now, I would be dripping in sweat in my
Just
house right now.
sweating. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But hey, man, this is the first time I've ever done this where I had a guest on like this, and we did part 1, part 2. But I mean, you did such a good job, man, at explaining it and in such good, like, masterly detail on the things you did and you growing up and how you just progressed. So, and thank you so much, Jill, for suggesting doing this part 2. Honestly, Jill, if you never said anything, I wouldn't have, thought of it. So thank you so much. There you go, Jill. Part 2. Um, so I know you kind of last week told us, what you were like, a bunch of things that happened. I know, like when you didn't know what you did to your friend's car, but like the axle was all bent or something, and you run back home. The cops pounded on your door. They're really just trying to check to see if you're okay, and then
Yeah.
it turned it on, to be like a war between you and the cops and everything. And as you were going. I didn't want to interrupt you, but you made me think about certain things like as you were telling your story. So I can't remember exactly what it was, but like I'm just gonna go through a few things that I wrote down in regards to what it was like for you.
Yeah.
I remember you talked about T-boning that lady and how it was like you could justify it and blame her as her fault. She put it out in front of you and things like that. That made me think of doing my fourth step actually, because up until I completed that fourth step, I was a victim. It was everybody else's fault. I had no part in anything that went wrong in my
Oh
life.
yeah.
It was not self-inflicted. It was bad luck. It was wrong place, wrong time. It was always somebody else's fault. I can always point the finger and justify it. And I learned if you justify it, you buy it. So
Yeah.
I was living that life for 20 years in that certain way of thinking. But after completing my fourth step, I got to see my truth. It wasn't somebody else's that they showed me. Here, this is yours. No, I got to see it for myself. It's so much power in that because there's like that fourth step is designed to introduce you to who you really are.
Yeah.
It's not like I found out, I'm like, oh, I'm not the nice guy I thought I was. That exposed it, and it also exposed if you actually did steps 1, 2, and 3 as well. But after I completed it, like I had proof on paper in my own handwriting. I was no longer a victim. I stopped cutting myself and blaming the knife already. I was able to take responsibility for where I was at in my life and all the things that I've done because all of the hardships, the pain, suffering, I would say, and I'm not exaggerating, about 99% of it was self-inflicted.
Oh yeah.
It had nothing to do with anybody else. It was all the decisions that I was making. Nobody else had a part to play in it. But to me, I could point at you. It was because of you. That's why. It's just amazing though. Like and like how you said that. But you were drunk and high, so you got to see your truth in it. As well. Um, you talked about a few other things. Okay, this is a good one. I like this one. I don't know what you were talking about, but I wrote down here resting on your laurels. I remember I was about 2 years sober in recovery, and life was great, man. I completed my fourth step. I was almost actually through with all 12 steps at this point, and there's this trap that is set for us where we can just kind of take our foot off the gas and just kind of coast on yesterday's recovery and see how long, because it'll last. Like it's not like it disappears instantly.
Yeah.
However, for me, what I found out, I was resting on my laurels, and then old attitudes, old behavior. I'm not drinking or using drugs, but old attitudes, old behaviors start coming back. Um, and I found out that laurels means past achievements. So I
Yeah.
was resting on my past achievements. That's what I thought. Resting on your laurels meaning just resting on your butt, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not what it means. It means resting on your past achievements. And this business of recovery, it's not an overnight matter. We should continue to grow in effectiveness and understanding, but it's a process. It doesn't. There's no finish line for me anyway. There's no finish line in this deal. You mentioned Bill and like Bill Wilson and how he's very good with his words because I found out later he was actually an English major, so he
Hmm.
never really liked to use the same words twice as he's writing.
Yeah.
It's amazing like how this book was written like almost 100 years ago, like 90 years maybe or almost.
Yeah.
And a couple other things I wrote here. You talked about it's a good one. Moderation. Like I wrote down the word moderation. So like I do not know why. Well, I do know why. I'm sorry. I think today I know why. But I could never moderate. And you know what? Honestly, when I think about it, I'm honest with myself. I kind of really moderate in anything. It's like I'm all
Yeah.
in or I'm all out. That's it.
Yeah.
Like let's go. We would either get drunk or we would just stay sober. We're gonna build in business or we're gonna not build in business. Whatever it is. Like I always went 2 feet in the door, kind of thing. And then the last thing I wrote down that you made me think of was I don't know what part of your story you're talking about, but I wrote down the word geographical
Oh yeah.
because I did that. What I did was thinking, man, it's the town I'm in, it's the people I'm around. I got to get out of here. So I went from, the Big Island, I moved to Oahu, and then, oh, wow, same thing happening over here. So I got to get away from these people now. I got to get away from this island. I ended up moving to Canada. I moved halfway around the world, you know. To escape my problems. However, I was the problem. So wherever I went, there I was. It's
Oh yeah.
crazy.
Can't
You
escape
know?
myself. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
exactly, bro. So
insanity.
exactly. So you know what? Real quick, just refresh everybody's memory. I asked you these questions last week. Just real quick again. There's 3 questions. How long have you been sober?
Been sober for nearly 9 years since April 28th, 2012.
Awesome, awesome, bro. And where are you from?
From Odessa, Texas, but I live in Pflugerville, Texas, which is like near Austin, Texas. It's about 20 miles north of
Oh, okay.
Austin.
All right, all right. Hey, how far away are you from what's that place called? You know, Chip, Joanna Gaines, where they live? They live in you know who that
Yeah,
is? I'm not sure if you know.
that name sounds familiar, but
They remodel homes and they flip houses and stuff.
yeah.
They are in, I forgot where they're at. We were actually gonna go visit their whole, but anyway, sorry, I'm getting off track.
No, that's all good. Yeah.
But okay, and then last question before you get into part two of your story. What was your choice in drink and or drug?
Heroin.
Ah, got it. Hmm.
Heroin and pot,
Yeah,
uh, more. So,
more. There you go.
yeah.
Oh, Waco. There you go. Thanks, Chris. Waco,
Yeah,
Texas.
it's not that far. It's like in maybe 2 hours or less, an hour and a
Oh,
half.
okay. All right. All right. Okay, cool. So yeah, Robert, at this time, I'll give you the floor now to walk us through your part two, getting into the recovery side of your story now.
Yeah, I'm just really honored and, love spending time with you on this. It's been really pleasant and fun. And so I was excited for a part two because I was like, dang, there's so much more,
Mhm.
to say. And I don't know, like when you were talking about like not being able to, there's still a lot that gets revealed to me. I feel like every year that I'm sober,
Yeah.
like the example of like for probably like the first 2 years, I thought the first substance that I ever used was alcohol, but then it was revealed to me, through continuing to do this work,
Mhm.
and just like more clarity, that it was actually I abused that inhaler while I was in
Mhm.
Hawaii.
Yeah.
But kind of, I think where I left off was like I got honest about this secret that I was holding for the first year that I was sober. And the secret was is that I had used while I was incarcerated, and no one knew that. And so we opened up Any Length Sober Living whenever I was released from prison on April 28th, 2012. So that's my sobriety date. But I was not willing. I was willing, but I didn't really want to get honest because of the shame and the guilt that I felt that would come with that.
Mhm.
And so I just kind of like I dove in to every aspect but that whenever I went through a 4 step with my sponsor. And when it came time to read it in the fifth step, I lied by omission. So I told all the way up to the point, like I told that, the cellmate that I was with, like I told him the truth about that he spiked the cigarette that was with tobacco. He laced it with that K2. And then I just left it at that. And I got some relief, and I definitely had an experience, and I dove into 12 step work and my disciplines, prayer, meditation, evening reviews, 10 stepping, carrying the message to treatment centers, working with sponsees, meeting with my sponsor, like doing everything that I could to try to like push this secret down. But it wasn't enough. It kept coming up. And then Macklemore, had to come out with
Mhm.
this song,
Mhm.
and I was like irritated with that because I was like, man, I'm not going to be able to escape this. Everywhere I went, this song would play. It felt like, I would get in the car, it'd be on the radio. I would, turn on Spotify, it would be a recommended, whatever,
Mhm.
and it was this song called Starting Over. And like, the lyrics of that is like, if I could be an example of getting sober, then I can be an example of starting over.
Mhm.
And I was just like, so I would get that, and I would ask some questions to some friends of mine and my sponsor. I'd be like, hey, like I know a guy that has been holding on to this secret, and I was talking about me. But what would you recommend to him? And they would tell me like, get honest. It's like pretty simple. But I just like had that shame and guilt, and so like I held on to that. And I was living in the sober living, managing it, having great experiences, working out, like getting sober, connecting, and it would just come up, come up, come up. And so I finally went to this retreat, to this reunion, and I like right when I got there, I beelined it to this old timer and was talking to him and was like, hey, like I've been holding on to this for the last year, and I'm just like real shameful about it, feel real guilty. And he laughed, and it was like not a laughing at me.
Mhm.
It was like the feeling that I got was like he understood. He identified, and he was like, no one's gonna care except for you, you know,
Mhm.
because because everyone else is like worried about their own shit, you know? So, um, and he was like, all right, like you got it off your chest, and, you know, now like go share this at the meeting tonight. And I was like, what? Yeah, like you want me to share this at the meeting? And I was like, all right, well, I'll do it. You know, I'm willing to go to any length. And so like I waited and was just like getting nervous, and finally I shared it. And you know, that was powerful in itself, just speaking my truth, and being authentic. Like there was a huge weight lifted off of me, and this like knot that I had in my stomach was just like it just dissipated. But I think more so than that was like the help, the ability that it provided me to help other people. You know, like what you're doing. You know, like you know, starting this movement, this ability to reach more people through, you know,
Mhm.
transparency, authenticity, and telling stories and like talking and connecting. And so I was able to do that, and people came up to me afterwards and you know started telling me secrets that they were currently holding. You know, and so I really love obviously the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, but the dark past in God's hand, the dark past can become my greatest asset. And I love that it says in God's hands,
Mhm.
because in my hands, like
Mhm.
it's not going to provide anything except for more discord, and less harmony, because I'm going to try to use it for my own selfish gain. But when I'm connected to power, you know, I'm able to connect with people. And that's the beautiful thing about that. And so, you know, I continued on, and like my best friend, he like, cause he was there, that was one of the guys I was talking to, like asking like, hey, you know, I know a guy, and he was like, you know, I thought you were free. Because like externally, like it appeared that you had recovered, that you were doing everything that you needed to do. Cause I was, but there's been a shift in your eyes. Like I can actually see you now.
Mhm.
And that was a very like powerful thing, because like I think it's like we don't realize like even these like small things that we classify as small, um, you know, we sweep them under the rug. They're easier, because it's not like a huge resentment or a huge fear or a huge dishonest action. Those are the things I would typically deal with, but you know, the small things need to be handled as well, right? It's not that elephant that's going to take you out. It's going to be the millions of ants that build up into like giant, bigger than an elephant. And by the time I realize it,
Mhm.
it's too late.
Mhm.
And so like we opened up a few more houses. During that time period, I was still involved in a relationship, from my past, and she was in active addiction. And so like I was like not as codependent, because like I was finding my path, and I would set boundaries and stuff like that, and I tried to make that relationship work.
Mhm.
That was probably one of the hardest things that I did in early recovery was, you know, communicate and set boundaries, and you know, be able to try to hold space safe, but not have to be there, not have to be in that codependent fashion. And so that relationship ended. Um, you know, I was still tough too, because I did have love for her, and probably like a couple of months went by, and you know, I rebounded, or maybe it was a couple of weeks. You know, I found another relationship, and this the whole time, you know, I'm managing any length. I think by this time I'd moved out, and I was going to school, in downtown Austin, and it was just beautiful. But we met, and it was more of like a friendship,
Mhm.
because we would sit down, we'd go through the big book. There was obviously an attraction there. Um, and like I found myself one day, but like it moved on to something else. I was actually talking to a buddy yesterday about this, just sharing some experience, because he's currently going through something similar. And I was like, you know, I had all these like these intuitive thoughts that like this is just supposed to be a friendship,
Mhm.
you know, and I disregarded them because I was in pain. You know, I didn't want to be alone. And so selfishly, you know, I continue to, you know, do what I do, and she did what she did, and you know, we got in a romantic relationship. It was, you know, it didn't last that long. It was like, you know, 3 to 5 months, something like that. But you know, now no longer do we have that friendship. because of, my selfish actions. And, and I went to my sponsor after that, and he was like, why don't you do this? Like, don't put a time limit on it, anything like this, but like, why don't you just focus on this relationship with God, this relationship with, your fellows, like with your sponsees, with carrying the message, and like your business, like the things you need to take care of, like focus on that. Like, God's given you this great ability, like your family's helped out too, you know, dive into that relationship. And I thought that was going to be the hardest thing to do. Cause like, I want to get laid, or, I want to have, I don't want to be alone, whatever, the case may be.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's what I did. And through that, I was able to have relationships with women, but it was just like a friend, because of the interactions at meetings, or, things we would do and go have fun. And that's when I met Courtney, during this time period. And I'd known her, like we'd met before. But there, I started to get like an attraction there, and I was like, hold up, like, is this like me just trying to like, me wanting to have sex with her, or like, is this something like, do I want to develop a friendship and like see where this will actually go?
Mhm.
And so like she asked me to help her move. And so, and like her roommate asked another guy, that I know help her to move as well. So we did that. And then I asked her, I was like, hey, you want to go get a burger at like Phil's Ice House? And so like, we went and had a burger, and like, we would go wake surfing and stuff like that on this guy's boat that we know. And then, like it kind of just progressed. But we'd like have this open dialogue and communicate or whatever. And like, and it was like something I'd never done before, like try to like be authentic in a relationship, not just show who I want them to see, but just like get completely transparent. So like one day we were driving back, from like wake surfing, and I just asked, I was like, hey, are you interested in like a real relationship, or, or sex or something like that? I was like, it was like, she was like, looked at me like she'd never heard anyone say that to her
Mhm.
before. I had never said that before either, but, and so she like gave me the answer, and like, one thing led to another. And like now we're coming up on 4 years,
Mhm.
married,
Yeah.
um, and I think like the powerful thing is like we waited to, have sex probably like it was like 6 months.
Mhm.
Like the longest time like that I've ever waited in a relationship to like, get intimate at that level. And I was like, that's weird, but it's like we actually got to know each other before we became like emotionally entangled.
Mhm.
And that's due to like, the work that I was willing to do on myself through recovery, and do with my sponsor, and listen and take direction, and also, you know, develop a sane and sound idea of how I want to show up in life. But as that was going on, right when we got married, actually, we opened up Any Length Retreat. And so we had two sober livings. We sold those two to purchase the property in Pflugerville, which is on 5 acres. Um, and we started going to work. I still had like two sober living houses. And then that was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, it's like running a sober living is an animal of its own, but like now I'm in like, talking direct care, with
Mhm.
guys that are freshly sober, like they've just, basically detox at a detox facility, and now they're coming into our care. Like that's a big responsibility.
Mhm.
Um, and I also still had this like dream for kicking. Um, and so we just opened that, and I was like, I'm going to kick, and I was still kicking. Like I started practicing again. I was still kicking like 40, 45-yard field goals, no problem. Punting decent. And I was like, I got to get better on kicking off. And so I went in and visited my coach in Dallas, and, was kicking off and like tweaked my quad. And so I
Ooh.
like rehabilitated it, still kicking fine. And then I would kick off or do something like really strenuous, and it would tweak again. And then one day I had the realization. I was sitting there just like what the heck, God, like, now I have this opportunity, like I'm sober four years, whatever. And it's like, I'm going to walk on to, this small junior or the small college in Georgetown, and then, transfer to UT. It's kind of like that same thing that I had
Yeah.
throughout my addiction. And I was just sitting there, and like, just like, boom, this light bulb came off. And it was like, well, then you shouldn't have opened up a, any length retreat.
Mhm.
You know, like how are you gonna, and you got married, so like how are you gonna have time to like be in school full time, play college football, run a men's recovery center,
Hmm.
and sober living? Like there's, you know, you don't have like we're still pretty brand new. Like we don't have a lot of staff. You know, like we're wearing all the hats.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you're absolutely right, you know. And so I like made that decision to dive in and go all in at any length retreat, and you know, and it's just grown into this amazing thing. I went and visited some programs, you know, probably after like the first year, year and a half, maybe close to 2 years, and like we shifted kind of like our philosophy and our approach. Like the roots stayed the same in my vision of like I like really like our purpose. Like we want to make every man and family that walks through that door like feel that this is their home, right? Like
Hmm.
they don't like I'm going to interact like as the founder and CEO with everyone. And we're going to stand shoulder to shoulder, you know, and like like obviously we are the staff there. And so like, you know, we give guidance and direction, but we also get authentic and brutally honest about like what we're currently going through in life, you know, because I don't want
Hmm.
to paint this picture of, you know, someone that I'm not, you know, so
Right.
like you know, obviously I share about the past struggles that I've gone through in my addiction and how I overcame that. But, you know, what am I currently going through? You know, what's currently, you know, bothering me in my life that I need to take a look at, because this is, you know, this is a lifelong commitment to recovery. And, you know, am I still as willing today at nearly 9 years sober as I was, you know, day one,
Hmm.
whenever that animal was really on me. And so, just about a year ago, you know, we started doing some, you know, as I evolved as a leader in this business, I started really looking at like, all right, what are the shiny things? Because like I have a lot of ideas. Just ask
Hmm.
Courtney and my friends, you know, and I want to implement them all, you know, like, and so like as I've grown, and I'm like, all right, like I have an idea, like I'll write it down, you know, instead of just obsessing about it. And like I learned that the hard way, of course, by causing, you know, chaos and just like vomiting it towards the staff, and then being caught off guard, like, oh, well, what are we doing? And so I learned, you know, over the last, geez, like, well, nearly 9 years, and I was like, all right, what is the shiny stuff that we need to get rid of? You know, so we can really focus on our mission and vision, and really like do the thing that we do supremely well. And it was, you know, it came to the conclusion that any length retreat is what we do well. And so that's our men's retreat in Pflugerville, Texas. Men stay there for, you know, on average 60 days. And the reason we like that is because the first 30 days I'm just coming out of the cloud, you know, and
Hmm.
and and
Yep.
in that next 30 days, like I get to really apply it and help others. You know, that's the you know, that's the magic, I believe, right? Is like I start helping someone else, and I'm not thinking about how, you know, how bad my day is, because now I'm
Yep.
thinking of you.
Hmm.
But with that realization, you know, we shut down our men's sober living house, which that was really hard because that's what we started at, and we were doing some recovery coaching, and got rid of that. But everything has just been so much like smoother and flows easier. Um, you know, I'm really big into fitness as well. That's been a part of my journey because when I got sober, I was weighing like 240 pounds.
Hmm.
And so like just like mind, body, spirit. And that's the same thing we implement there with our program. I'm actually competing in an event with Chase, our fitness director. He's been a godsend. At the end of May, it's called High Rocks, and you know, we'll see how I feel about it afterwards. It's gonna suck, but it's gonna be good. It's gonna be fun. But you know, I like to stay active, and you know, today we're hanging out. Tomorrow I'll turn 33 years old.
Oh
So we're out here just celebrating with some friends my birthday, and just hanging out, you know, having fun like that.
wow.
That's what you know, recovery's fun
And
today.
so your sobriety birthday and your like your belly button birthday is in both in April.
Yeah, both in April.
Oh, right on.
Well, yeah. So I think I was talking to you briefly whenever we were talking about your mother, but like my nanny, like that was like my dad's mom.
Hmm.
Um, that was someone like that just like I wanted. In her eyes, like I was an angel, right?
Hmm.
And she always prayed for me, but like that's my sober date is on her birthday, April 28th. And I don't think that's any coincidence. You know, the way that she was a role model and like always happy, always of service to others, always going out of her way to help people And not to like show other people, but just because she genuinely wanted to help others.
Right.
That's the example that, I too, want to live in my life. She's this amazing woman. Love bridge, love hearts. So, but yeah, that's kind of like this in a nutshell. But I mean, it's like
Yeah.
still today, like, I'm active in, my own 12-step groups that I go to. I meet with my group every Sunday night. I still carry meetings out to a recovery center.
Oh,
Still,
that's
participate in
awesome.
morning disciplines and evening
Yeah.
disciplines.
Yeah,
Um,
I got my first shot. I got vaccinated because we didn't want to take any chances because we have to fly to Hawaii for my mom's service, but we got to pop negative for COVID. If we pop positive, we are not making it to my mom's service. So,
yeah,
um, I never gave it too much thought, honestly, but I was like, whatever. So I got my first shot. I'll get my second one in about a week. And like going back into treatment centers, like I love doing that. So I get some stuff lined up already to go in May, but I'm super pumped about it. I'm super excited. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I love doing this. I can talk about recovery all day. Like I'm not exaggerating. Like my wife knows that. She gotta kind of be like, change the channel already, kind of thing.
yeah,
Like don't get me wrong, she's grateful for my recovery, my relationship with God and everything, but like like people when they get to know me, like because I like on my lives, on like videos I make, I'm very passionate, enthusiastic because I'm talking about recovery. If you
yeah,
just hang out with me, I'm not like that. I'm not all rah, 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 I can just be just like normal, you know what I mean? But you start talking about recovery, boom, the switch just turns on, and there I go. Um, but okay, brother, thank you so much. Now I'm gonna ask you some questions. Now we're winding down real quick. This is the first question I want to ask you, Robert. What have you discovered about yourself in the process of recovery?
and I think like the biggest thing is like those extremes.
Ah,
Um, and that still shows up. I mean, like I
yeah,
go like
yeah,
there's no gray area.
yeah,
Um, it's all or nothing. Like if whether that's like with fitness, whether that's with a diet, like I'm all in or I'm not in
yes.
at all.
Mhm.
And so that's something that I've really tried to be aware of.
Mm,
And more so recently, I feel like I've been more aware of it as like, not judging myself if I do go to those extremes, but releasing that expectation,
right.
and giving myself some grace. And so, I feel like even whether that's with like my morning routine, like typically like if I was like all out, my extreme would be like it has to be an hour long.
Hmm.
And so if it wasn't an hour long, then I failed.
Right.
um, and whatever, like if it's if it's waking up, then like every single day, then I need to wake up like this was like the insanity is like I need to wake up at like 5:30,
Hmm.
whatever it was at that time period. And it wasn't until like I was like, well, that's like, someone was talking with me. I was like, well, that's not really realistic.
Right.
um, and like to be like 100%, all in,
Hmm.
straight discipline that way for 365 days a year. Like you're going to go through seasons.
Yeah.
And so like some months, like, some quarters, like you're going to feel on fire. Some days you're going to feel on fire. So it's like, all right, take advantage of that. Like don't justify it, and like just be lazy. But like some days it's okay to be lazy,
Hmm.
and maybe not lazy is not the right word, but like, to rest,
To
and to
rest.
be in
Hmm.
solitude, not isolation.
Right.
And so that's been probably most profound, like,
Hmm.
is this year specific, the last 2 years really, like with the pandemic, is like being content in a state where there's a whole lot of chaos and like unfamiliarity.
Right.
um, and so that's where I've really been applying is like finding my gray area, and being okay with that. So it's like if I intend to wake up tomorrow at like 6 a.m.
Hmm.
and I wake up at 7, like big deal, like it's
Yeah.
not the end of the world.
Yeah.
So I've been able to, through practicing and living in some character assets and just kind of like stop taking myself so seriously. That's probably been the biggest thing. And,
Yeah. Yeah. Rule
and
60. Yeah.
yeah, Rule 62. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny that you're talking about this because you made me think about it because like myself, like being all in, all out, no gray area. I have been on fire from recovery from the day I walked through those doors and like the fire never did burn down at all in like over 4 years. Um, and then recently, this happened recently. I've shared this before in meetings, but when I'm like all in or all out, that's not always a bad thing because my wife knew that about me. However, it never did start to conflict, that kind of way of living until recently with my marriage, my family, with my son, because we have a son now. So it's more of my time is needed for them. So, we were arguing one day. We were yelling at each other. And then I'm justifying why I'm doing what I'm doing, so she immediately just stopped me. She said something and I stopped because she was absolutely right. She said, like, she's not talking about my personal recovery, like that's different, but like my recovery, like Pro Recovery Power, my YouTube page, the lives, my meetings, all these different things. I give everything to that, because of the life I have today. I'm so passionate about it. And I believe this is my purpose. This is why God kept me alive, to carry this message. And she knows that. But she said, look, you do that. You do that. You're there for all your sober friends. And then when you're done, you turn around, you see us, we get whatever's left over. Like, oh, I'm tired. Because it takes a lot of energy out of me. And like, oh, I don't really like
Yeah.
watching my son. I'm tired. I want to relax. And things like that. So when she said that, I immediately seen that that was absolutely true, and that stopped me. And it wasn't long after that where the first time in my life being sober, this is what it felt like. This is the only way I can describe it. It felt like I lost my passion for
Mm.
recovery, which to me, that is impossible. However, that's not the reality. That's not what the reality was. It was emotions, which, I learned in the process of recovery that my emotions should always be submitted to wisdom, So I cannot. I used to live my life just let my emotions just make all the decisions.
Yeah.
But then I learned, so like it was in a way, it's like, man, God. It could be like God really wants to see, hey, do you really believe this is your purpose? Do you really believe in me? Do you really trust me? Do you really love me? It's like He took
Mm.
away my passion for recovery to see what's gonna happen to me, you know.
Yeah.
But like even though the feelings weren't there, I still kept doing it because I knew it's not like I'm doing this based off a feeling kind of thing. It's just I know there's too much proof of it in my life, and I don't really necessarily need a feeling to do something. Whether it's good or bad. Really, I really don't. But I'm sorry, it's kind of one long thing. I'm asking you questions. I start
No,
answering them too.
that's what I love.
Okay.
It's like getting that connection. That
Yeah, man.
identification.
Absolutely, man. And then the next question is, um, how do you maintain your recovery?
Man, it's the same. Well, I mean, it evolves, but I think like living in all 12 steps,
Mm-hmm.
and maintaining that relationship with my creator,
Right.
I think like is the key thing, right? It's like that's the number one relationship. And I
Mm.
basically like whenever I say put recovery first, like that includes God.
Right.
Because without that love that God gives, like nothing would be possible.
Yeah.
And then, it's like the same thing. It's like, staying in a relationship with my sponsor, staying involved in the circle and triangle of recovery, and,
Uh-huh.
being authentic and transparent when things pop up throughout the day, calling someone, praying about it, taking action when necessary to, clean up my mess that I just made, making
Mm-hmm.
amends promptly.
Mm-hmm.
And then, well, I said staying close to God, so that it implies prayer and meditation.
Right.
But really diving into that and just continuing to grow and going back through the work.
Mm-hmm.
but getting current, like what currently am I resentful about, fearful about, how have I been dishonest in any areas? Am I living up to that sand and sound ideal, or does it need to be tweaked as I evolve and as I grow and as I become more awake? I think that's the biggest thing. Every week, I participate in a men's accountability group, and I think accountability can kind of sound like harsh, but it's not in that manner, right? Like it's
Hmm.
we have the ability to see um, what I can see something possibly in you that maybe you're not aware of, and vice
Right.
versa. And so that feedback is vital, but it does no good if
Hmm.
I just get the feedback and take no action on it. Faith without
Hmm.
works is dead.
Absolutely.
So, taking that action on it, or sometimes I don't take any action on it. And so, like, I get to, be miserable about that particular thing. And then, I get placed in an opportunity to, grow or, suffer.
Hmm.
And sometimes I think suffering is okay because, like, I'm stubborn, and so, like, sometimes I need pain to take action.
Yeah.
But that's how I say, like, how I maintain it, how I grow it. Being very involved with, still sponsoring men,
Hmm.
working with new guys, not, I haven't graduated, because
Right.
this is life,
Hmm. Yeah,
so.
absolutely. Speaking about pain, I believe, God uses pain to help us grow, but I don't think that's the first tool he'll reach for.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we force his hand, so to speak. And typically I would feel pain because, like, I was very close-minded. I was not open to direction. I was not open to taking suggestions. So my only option, my only teacher became pain. That was it.
Yeah.
That's the only way I learned anything for 20 years, man. I mean, being on the other side of the fence today, oh, it's so much better, man. It's so, being able to take suggestions and follow directions. Oh, it changed my whole life. So here, this is the next question. What's the best part of your life today?
And the best part,
Yeah, I know that's
every,
kind of a loaded question.
all of it,
Mhm.
every aspect. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no complaints, whether it's like something, I'm struggling with or something that, like, I'm killing it at, it's like
Mhm.
all of it is the best part, I would say.
Yeah. I
Highs
can
and
relate.
lows and middle ground.
I can definitely relate. Okay, brother. Well, the last question I'll ask you before we wrap this up is, what would you say to somebody, to a newcomer, somebody right now trying to get sober or somebody trying to stay sober?
Hmm. Well, I don't want to go on another tangent. Like you saying that, you know, we've probably lost a lot of people, but I think, everyone knows is like, Earl Simmons, DMX,
Yeah.
someone that, that he was very influential, at least with the music, and, definitely identified with what he was talking about in that struggle.
Yeah.
So, it's like, I would really say to, the newcomer, welcome, right? Or someone struggle, like don't hesitate to reach out. But that's obvious. Like sometimes that's the hardest thing to do, is
Uh-huh.
type through that 1,000-pound phone or pick up the phone or
Yeah.
just walk across that room or street or wherever you are and say, hey, like, I know you, I've seen you, like, hey, I need some help. And so definitely it's like, you're not alone. Like you can help someone else recover from this addiction. When you get well, and your story you have a story to tell, right? Like it
Right.
is unique. Your story is unique, and it needs to be told to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe not in that monumental of a setting,
Right.
but needs to be told to someone.
Mm-hmm.
But I think more so is like to us who have recovered and are walking on this journey is like, hey, like go reach out to the new man or woman, like go approach them. Don't just wait for them to try to approach you. Like, don't chase them down or like, try to like, whatever. But like that, that's what happened to me. Someone's hand needed to reach out to me first, um, because I wasn't going to be like, hey, like I need help, even though I was just, completely dying. Like someone, said, hey, like, you're not alone. Like, hey, you want to go get some coffee? They weren't like, hey, like I'm gonna sponsor you right this very second or whatever. They were
Mm.
just like, hey, you want to go hang out? Like, you want to
Yeah.
go grab some coffee? And then, through that process, like I became curious. I was like, why does this guy have such a badass life? Like, why is he content? Why is he smiling?
Yeah.
It's because he put himself out there for me. And so that's what I would say is like, you know, we need to do more of this. We need to see more of this. Like I could do this all day, every day, is like sit here and talk to you, like, because it's just like it fuels me. It doesn't take anything away from me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I can agree with that, man. It does gives you a lot of energy, man. Like whenever, I listen to somebody, I'm in a meeting, I'm doing these, a lot of the time, like I just like after it's over, like I'm all hyper. Like my wife is like, "Oh, calm down." You know what I mean? You know. But yeah, I want to thank you again so much, Rob. I know you're busy. Hey, and happy birthday, bro. And I
hey,
will be wishing
thank you.
you a happy sobriety birthday. It's coming up on the 28th. So the 11th and the 28th. That's awesome of April.
Yeah,
Right
April.
on. That's so cool. Do you celebrate it at once, or you do one and another one?
Do one and the other one. Why not get
Ah.
two celebrations?
Right? Oh, okay. Well, I will definitely I will keep in touch with you. I still would like to pick your brain more along the lines of any length retreat, because that's the direction I'm moving in. It's down the line though, further down the road. But I'm glad that God opened this door. Because I didn't know that about you until we were gonna go live. And I found
Yeah.
all this stuff out. So cool,
Yeah,
man.
anything that I can help with. And April 24th, we're having so if any of y'all want to come to the Austin area, if you're close,
Hmm.
April 24th, the last Saturday in April, we're having Any Length Fest 2021. So it's gonna be from 12 to 9. We're gonna have local vendors, food trucks, like a dunking booth, sand volleyball, just a whole lot of fun. And then Black Fret, uh, their nominated artists are gonna be performing at night from
Hmm.
6 to 9. Nane, um, how do you say the name? Motinko, I think is how you say it, in Animals on TV.
Uh-huh.
Or Motenko? I don't know. Say it. I'm trying. Sorry, guys. um, but yeah, it's gonna be a blast. But Nane's headlining, and so it's gonna be a blast. If you can come out, man, we'd love to have you.
Yeah,
So
that's
it'd be
awesome,
cool.
bro. Right on. I wish I was closer to Texas. I wish I was in
Yeah,
Texas. You
yeah,
know, we gotta plan a trip. Like because COVID, things are dying down. Like I have made and developed so many close relationships with people I've never met in real life because of the pandemic. And I'm like, man, we gotta go start meeting these people. So like some of these things are happening now. But I mean, I would love. But again, I'm married. I cannot just be like, okay, babe, we're gonna do this and this and this.
yep.
They look at me like, what? you know, it's not all about me. So that's something I would like to do though, definitely, as time goes on. But I appreciate your time again, Robert. I will be in touch with you, sir. But you enjoy, the wakeboarding, bro.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right, brother. We'll have safe travels, and sending love and prayers to your family. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Thank you so much, bro. Take
All right.
care.
Peace.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Jill, and you guys are on the East Coast. Jill and Blair. So yeah, whenever I go and meet everybody, I definitely will come by and swing by and see you guys as well. But thank you guys so much for watching. Real quick announcement. Wednesdays, every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I host a Pro Recovery Power Hour. It's basically like a 12-step meeting. All fellowships are welcome. All support groups are welcome. It's a place where you get to talk about, your triumphs, your troubles. You get to share, because I believe our mouth is the valve to relieve the pressure from our hearts. I believe that because I've experienced it. That has been my experience and the experience of millions of people around the world. So if you guys want a meeting, need a meeting, wanted to check it out, we'll be there every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But thank you guys so much again for watching. We will see you guys next week. I'm only going live on Saturdays now, so I'll see you guys next week Saturday. Have a great weekend, guys. Aloha.